had been a Christian, fell away and things, and he joined a fraternity. And I'd heard he joined a fraternity. I think my son had told me he joined a fraternity. I said, what do you think about being in that fraternity? He says, what I think about it. Nothing else matters. What? Nothing else matters. My fraternity brothers are what it's all about. It's all about them. It ain't about this school. It ain't about God. It ain't about nothing. I said, you realize what you're saying? Yeah. Nothing else matters. I like to cry at people. I looked at him, I thought, how sad. A fraternity teaching people nothing else matters? Well, that's not the only thing it does. There's lots of other things to do too. But it's a sad thing. The mentality of so many people don't realize God's love is what it's about. Nothing else matters. You got His love. You don't have to have anything else. Without it, you got nothing. With it, you got everything that you need and more. And that's what He's saying here. I'll draw all men to me with it. Also, let's look at John 6. Turn back over to John 6:44. Just a few pages back here. John 6:44, Jesus is speaking again. Says kind of the same thing. No one can come to me unless the Father sends him. Unless the Father who has sent me draws him. And I will raise him up the last day. Now get what Jesus is saying right here. No one comes to me unless the Father sends him. You see, what He's saying is, you can't come to Him unless you see what the Father's done. You see, what the Father's done on the cross. He said, when the Father makes it possible, you see the cross. He says, who sins, He'll draw him to Him. We'll be drawn to Him by the cross. We're drawn to Him by the cross. Then He says, and I'll raise him up the last day. This is the person, these are the people, that when they die, they're not like everybody else. I don't know what your experience has been in cemeteries, but I've been to a lot of them. Was one here the other day and in my life. Every time I walk around a cemetery, it never fails. I look at the tombstones, look at the names and things. Probably you do the same thing some. This one I did the other day. I was looking for my relatives because a lot of my relatives are buried out there where I had that funeral the other day. Looked at them and I thought about them. I thought about their lives. I thought about their faith. And while I stand there, I think about what it's going to be like one day when those graves open up. Someday, the graves are going to open up. And right here, Jesus is saying, one day, for the faithful person who follows me, who's drawn to me, he's going to be raised up on the last day. They're going to be with me, you see. So when He comes again, this is what's going to happen. It's all going to happen. And the Lord's going to say, okay. But, He says, it gets back to whether we're drawn to Him by the cross, you see, and by grace is what He's talking about. This whole thing is made possible because He's made this wonderful situation with grace and His love. Verse number 3, Christianity is free, yet it is costly. You next make this costly. Matthew 16:24. Christianity is free, but it's costly. Seems like a contradiction in terms, but it's not. Matthew 16:24. And Jesus said to His disciples, if anyone wishes to come to me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. In one verse, Jesus sums up what it means to live the Christian life. He says, here's the thing. You want to be a follower? You want to be a Christian? You want to be a real disciple? Real follower? Here's the deal. If anyone wishes to come after me, if you really want to follow Him, he must deny himself. Is that marked in your Bible? That needs to be marked. That needs to be highlighted. It all begins with, not what God's done, it begins with denying self. Denying self. You remember when you were baptized, if you were baptized for the right reason, you see. You experienced a death and a burial and a resurrection. The death was death of self. Self died. It started there, you see. That was the initial death of self. We put off self in the watery grave of baptism. When I say it started there, it's because it continues on every day that we continue this life. The death, the death, the death. He says, if you follow me, you got to deny self. Deny self. That bites pretty deep right there. He says, you can't just follow me. It starts out with denying self. It's not about me anymore. It's not about my popularity. It's not about my money. It's not about my stuff. It's not about my body. It's nothing about us. We're completely out of the picture. Not about us. He says, deny himself. And also notice what he says next. And take up his cross. We don't just deny ourselves. We don't just deny ourselves. Then after denying ourselves, we take up crosses. Jesus took up tons of crosses, maybe hundreds of crosses during his lifetime before he took up the cross. Taking up crosses. Did you take up any crosses this week? See, true followers are daily taking up crosses. They're taking up crosses. Well, what are crosses? What is a cross? You get back and define a cross. A cross is never comfortable. It's not doing the comfortable thing. You see, that's about self. That's, making me comfortable. Look, sure, I'm comfortable here. I want to get comfortable, Comfortable. God said, no, it's not about your comfort, you see. It's denying self. No comfortable crosses. Crosses are embarrassing to take up, you see. When we take up crosses, we're taking up other people. Other people. Jesus took up the hungry, the sick, the lame, the blind, the prostitutes, the social rejects, on a daily basis. Took them up. He loved them. He cared for them. He helped them. He was there for them. He even touched them, It's incredible. The lepers, all of them. He's taking up crosses today. Well, he didn't do that just for him and just for them. He did that for us. He said, this is what you do, you see. First starts out with denying yourself. Now, nobody takes up a cross till they deny themselves. A lot of people have been put on crosses, and that guy, Jesus was put on a cross, but he let them put him on the cross. He took up that cross. At any given time, he could have said, no, we're not doing this. He could have shut that thing down in a heartbeat. He could have disappeared. He could have called down angels. He could have done anything. He didn't. He laid there and calmly took on that cross. Let him put those nails right in those hands, you see, right in those feet. Put him on the cross. Yes, it was painful. It was difficult. I'm sure it's all like he could possibly bear at the time, but he did it. For you and for me, you see. He said, now I've done this. Not just telling you to do it, I've done it. Now I want you to do it. But not be put on a physical cross necessarily. Daily, take up crosses. Take up crosses of other people. You see, the business we're in as a church is the people business. We're the people business. We're serving each other. We're serving others. It's all about taking up crosses. Now, when people don't understand the cross, don't understand grace, they don't understand what it is to live the Christian life. It begins with denying self, taking up cross, and following Him, you see. You can't follow Him without denying self, taking up crosses, and following Him, see. Everyone, you're surrounded by people on a daily basis, I promise you, that are crosses, people you could take up. Encourage. Sometimes it's just a word. Sometimes it's just a kind gesture. Sometimes it's just not even that. It's just a smile. It's just accepting people. It's just approving of people. Not of what they do, but of them, you see. Just loving them. I've already told you several times, my word for this year, I choose a word for every year. My word for this year is compassion. Compassion. I've studied compassion. I continue to study it. I'll study it all year, you see. But not just studying it. How's this guy right here need to be more compassionate? Compassion is feeling what other people feel. The suffering, the pain, the struggle, the anxiety, the upset. What's that really feel like? Well, we can't do that without denying self, taking up crosses, following Him. So many times the Bible says He saw the people, He saw the crowd, and He felt what? Compassion. His heart went out to them, nearly broke. These are sad, lost, hopeless people without Him, you see. Well, that's still going on. We're surrounded by it. Elk City's full and running over with sad, lost, helpless, hopeless people without Him. And the only way they're ever going to get Him People denying themselves, taking up crosses, following Him. See? On a daily thing for us, sir. And He's showing us that very thing here. Luke 9:23. Turn over to Luke chapter 9, verse 23. Luke 9:23 says it again, but I put this one in here because there's an extra word here in this one. He says the same thing here, and He said to them, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. Isn't it interesting? Luke puts in the word daily. It's not just deny himself. Oh, I did that last month. Going to do that tomorrow. Did that day before yesterday. No. Deny himself, take up his cross daily. See, if you miss one word, you miss the concept of what He's doing. He said, you take up your cross daily, every day. Well, that's part of seeking the kingdom. As we seek, we become seekers. We're not just seeking where God's at. We're going, wait a minute. We're seeking, who are the people around me on a daily basis that need me? They need my words. They need my presence. They need my thoughts. They need my touch. They need my stuff. Who are the people? He's daily watching for them. See, a lot of times we don't see them because we're not looking for them. Or we're not looking for them daily. Well, I looked for them yesterday or day before yesterday or once last month. No. He says the real true followers are taking up their crosses what? Circle that word daily, every day. You get up in the morning thinking about what crosses are they. But don't just think about what crosses are. Thank God for it. Thank you so much for the opportunity today. Take up another cross. What can I do to help somebody? What can I do to be there for somebody? What can I do to encourage somebody? What can I do to be of value as far as the cross is concerned? Daily is concerned. Matthew 13, 44 and 40 through 46. I don't think that's on your notes. You might want to put that on there. Matthew 13, 44 through 46. I thought about this. This has been such a strong impression to me in my life that I hate to leave it out of this lesson. Matthew 13, 44 through 46. Jesus is telling a parable here and explains about this in word pictures He's showing us here. Begin in Matthew 13, verse 44. And the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man has found and hid again. And from joy over it, he goes and sells all that he has, and he buys the field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant seeking fine pearls. And upon finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all he had, and he bought it. Jesus tells these two little stories. In this first little story, he says, it's like a person going out there and finding a treasure in a field. Now, over in Israel, in that part of the country, there's lots of treasure and lots of fields. They didn't have banks and vaults and safety deposit boxes and all kinds of things and places, vaults and safes in their houses. So they go out and bury their treasure. The bad thing about burying their treasure was oftentimes they bury the treasure and they'd be killed by something or somebody, and then the treasure's out there, you see. Tons. One of the great things young Israelite boys and Jewish boys like to do is go out and treasure hunt. Well, he's playing on this because at his time, they were always used to hear, so found a treasure. Well, this first one says, kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that's hidden in a field, which a man found, and hid it again, and the joy over it, he goes and sells all he has and buys the field. He finds the treasure, he buries the treasure, he goes and buys the field. This is not his treasure, it's not his field. He says, okay, I found the treasure. If I own the field, it'll be my treasure. So he puts the treasure back in there, goes and takes everything he has and sells it and buys this field. You ever seen anything or had anything in your life that's so precious you'd get rid of everything you got to buy it, get a hold of it? Well, it have to be worth a lot more than what you already have, either sentimental value or otherwise, as far as that's concerned. But you go, wait a minute, that's what this guy does. He goes out and sells everything he's got and buys this field. Goes out there and digs up his treasure. Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like that. See, when you really get the kingdom of heaven, you really get what it's about. You realize what a treasure it is, what a valuable thing it is. Then you compare it to what you already got, your life, your time, your values, your things, your body, and you go, no, wait a minute. This is more valuable than everything I lay my hands on, everything I've got, everything I'm worth. I'll give up all that for this treasure. And then right behind that, when he tells another little story, he goes, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking fine pearls. And upon finding one pearl of great price or great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. This guy's a merchant. He goes around, he's looking at diamonds and pearls and different things, and he finds this pearl, this precious pearl. He goes, oh, this is great. How much is it? How much is it? It's a great price. It's worth a lot. It's worth a lot. Finds this pearl. He sells everything he's got. He gets rid of everything. Find the pearl of great value. He went and sold all that he had, and he bought it. I'm sure there's several of us in here that have looked at lots of jewels in our lives besides Ray Dameron. But, Dixie and different ones that do the jewelry store thing and all that kind of stuff. And I've been privileged. I've got to look at lots of jewels in my life. I've got to look at them and see prices and understand why they're so valuable and all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting to me, kind of thing, And when you see the jewel of jewels, I do want a raise of hands. How many of y'all have seen the Hope Diamond? Hope Diamond. Several of us have in the museum in Washington, D.C. I stood there looking at Hope Diamond in Washington, D.C. in that museum deal. I'll go, wow. Wonder what that value of that thing is. I mean, it's a pretty good sized diamond. Did you know when they turn the lights out, the Hope Diamond continues to glow in the dark? Those of us have seen it. We've seen it. They'll turn the lights out. Look at this. That thing's still glowing. I mean, it holds so much light. It's still glowing in the dark. It's incredible. Hope Diamond. You look at that thing, you think, wow, what could possibly be a value, that great value of that thing? Well, this parable Jesus is telling right here says, a man finds this pearl, and it's so precious, it's so valuable, he's willing to sell out everything. Now, what Jesus is saying is, there's no living the Christian life if you don't do this. Now, you can think you're a Christian, anybody else is a Christian. They're not really happening, see. Unless a person sells out everything to become a Christian. That's the reason we experience a death and a burial and a resurrection. Because when we die to stuff. We die to ourselves. We die to pride. Anything of any kind of value at all to us, we die to that for us, you see. We go, it's not about me anymore. It's zero about me. It's all about Jesus, you see. And as we strive to live that life, often we get, back to, no, here, I sold out, It's amazing how many times possessions and things and property, and oil wells and windmills and all kinds of things, our part of the country, possess people. I hear ranchers and farmers often say, their cattle got over on me. I'm going, what? Yeah, they got over on me. Well, they're their land. That's what they're saying. Well, this land was mine. They got on me. I got on them. Well, that land is not you. But in their thinking, that land's them. If something happens to land, there's no value anymore. So they're going, wait a minute. That's not me, you see. Jesus is saying here, the Christian, a true Christian, sees themselves as nothing outside of Christ, of no value, hopeless and helpless. But, like we started out, Romans 8, in Him, we got everything, you see. Now, this mentality is so important because when you get grace, you change your thinking about yourself, everybody else, everything else. No matter what happens, it's okay. If you lose stuff gets stolen, people take advantage of you, they say unkind things about you, That's amazing me often Christians get upset and bothered because somebody says something about them. Well, hello. They said things about Jesus every day. Derogatory, horrible, dishonoring, disrespectful. When it's not about you and it's about Him, you go, wait a minute. They didn't say anything about me. When they said something about me, they said something about Him. If I'm representing Him, I've sold out. Now, right here in Sunday school class here Sunday morning, I want you to think about it. Take a little inventory. Have you really and truly sold out? Or is it all still yours? I'll tell you how you know. If you go home and it's gone, The diamond's not there anymore. The house is not there anymore. The car's not there anymore. That cash you got hid away is not there anymore. You know, that'll tell the tale. But if ahead of time you can go, no, wait a minute. No matter what, it was his deal. If he wanted me to have it, I'd have it. If he doesn't want me to have it, I don't need it. You know, it's not about us, you see. But it's amazing how many people lose. And if you get even a little more personal than that, health or their life, you know, is it all about this body? Have we made it so much until I told you about going to the doctor here a few months ago, and I told the doctor, I said, now listen, Doc, I don't want us to misunderstand each other here. He said, what is it, Rod? I said, here's the thing. I don't want this body to outlive this mind. Once the mind's gone, let the body go. Don't keep it on going. I know people that their mind be gone a long time. He said, I do too, Rod. But here's the thing with me. I'm going to try to make your body last as long as your mind does. I said, okay, we're on the right deal. Because so many times, no matter what happens, I've got to, no, it's not that important thing. When we let go, even the body, we go, no, wait a minute. I'm going to take care of it and try to keep it clean, nourishing. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's his deal. Dying to self. Now, Jesus talked about these things. He talked about buying the pearl. Galatians 2, verse 20 and 21. This is the way that Holy Spirit guides Paul to say it. You already know the verse. Galatians 2, 20 through 21. For I'm crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. In the life which I now live in the flesh, I live with the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not nullify the grace of God, for if righteousness comes through the law, then Christ died needlessly. Now we know 20, we think about 20, but 20 is punctuated with 21. 20 says, I've been crucified with Christ. That's what we've been talking about this whole morning, this whole part right here. You see, when we're crucified with him, it's not about us anymore. It's all about him. We see ourselves as crucified to him, died to old self when we was baptized, become a Christian. No longer I that live, but Christ lives in me. It's not about us living, see. Well, but wait a minute. If I don't live, how am I going to get my feelings hurt? How am I going to get jealous? How am I going to get upset? How am I going to get bothered? He says, none of that happens to dead people, you see. If all those things are happening to us, how am I going to get respect? If all those things happen to us, we're alive. We're alive. We're alive to that. He says, when you die, it's not about you anymore, you see. It's not about you. Yes, you show all those things. You're kind, you're loving, you're kind. But it's about Christ, okay? Whatever he would do, we do it. See how simple it makes it? That Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God. He says, now then, we're not continuing to exist, but it's not about us anymore. It's all about him. Can you imagine how the divorce rate would go down overnight? With just Christians. Start doing this right here. It's not about him anymore. It's not about her anymore. It's just about Christ. Years ago, I had a couple unusual situations back, 10, 15 years ago. A young man called me up and said, my mom and daddy want to counsel with you, help them with their marriage. I said, okay. I'll meet them tonight at 7 o'clock. Came up here at 7 o'clock. They was all three here. The man and his mother and his daddy was here waiting for me and come in my office, sit down there. I said, okay, now I've done a lot of marriage counseling in my life, but I don't understand something. Y'all got to clear this up for me. This is your mother and father. What are you doing here? This is a true story, people. Nobody was there but me and them, but this really happened. I know you're not going to believe it. He said, I came here to keep them from killing each other while you talk to them. What? He said, I came here to keep them from killing each other. They're pretty upset with each other while you talk to them. I said, well, you don't know me that well, but I got this. You could go now. I can handle this. And he said, okay. And he looked at them, and they gave him the nod, and he left. And I said, what's going on, people? They said, well, we just can't get along. We just can't get along. I said, well, what seems to be the problem? We don't know. It's just we're upset with each other. We stay bothered. We just basically hate each other. I said, okay. Well, let me ask you a question. I'd never worked with him before at all, anything at all. I said, let me ask you a question. If we got up here tonight, we walked out here on these front steps and say, Mister, you stumbled and you went out, my pickup's parked out there in the street, you stumbled and you hit your head on the bumper of my pickup and kind of dazed you and kind of almost knocked you out. And we got you up there and set you back down, and me and your wife were sitting there with you. And all of a sudden you said, and your wife says, are you all right? And you go, yeah, okay, you got a pump knot, but I'm thinking, all right. Well, what's going on? He said, who are y'all? And we realized you'd lost your memory. And we said, well, who are you? And he said, well, I know this sounds strange, but I'm Jesus. Jesus? Yeah. Well, how does it feel to be Jesus? Well, I'm full of love, forgiveness, kindness, graciousness. I care about y'all. I want you to be saved. I said, I turned to the lady and I said, would you have a problem going home with this guy if he was Jesus? No. That'd be wonderful. That'd be heavenly. I said, there you go. Well, let's turn it around. She's the one that goes down and hits the pump knot. She thinks she's Jesus. I said, would you have a problem going home with her if she's acting like Jesus? Well, not at all. Why not? Well, she'd be loving and kind and generous and respectful. And I said, I think I figured out y'all's problem. They said, what? And I said, we got a couple of devils sitting here. They looked at each other and they said, we really are. I've treated her like the devil. She said, I've treated him like the devil too. I said, well, simple thing. That needs to die. You need to become like Christ. I know that sounds like it's oversimplifying. It's not oversimplifying it, people. It is. I've dealt with lots of people. A lot of people really at odds with each other. I can tell you a lot of other stories about this kind of thing too. Where they come back to me going, wow, Rod, where'd you hear that at? I said, the Bible. It's in the Bible. Just die to yourself. Be like Jesus. It makes you a better worker, employee. It makes you a better mate. It makes you a better Christian. It makes you a better friend. You can't go wrong. See? What's the problem? Because we're alive to self. I want what I want if it kills her, whatever happens. God said, no. You die to you. You like to live like them. Now, some of you will never know what that's like till you do it. Some of you are already doing it. You know what it's like. And you know what I'm saying is true. That's the way it works, you see. It's incredible. You won't ever give anybody a piece of marriage advice better than that right there. If they'll try it, if they'll do it. But it's not just marriage. It's all of life, you see. The challenge for us, grace is not cheap. It costs us. It's not about you anymore. Right here, I'm standing in these walls right here. You would not believe the bickering and arguing and complaining and upset and bothered. This congregation's had a horrible history through the years. Not anymore, but for years it did. You're thinking, what's that about? One thing. People lie to themselves. That would have never happened. None of those things would have ever happened. People have been dead to themselves, alive to Christ. You see. What that tells me is people are getting it. You're getting it. You're understanding it, you see. It's not that way. I very seldom ever hear anything. The boy back in the day was all, you heard it. If you were raised around here, I was. I knew about my family was terrible. It's cost us dearly, brethren. But this one concept is worth everything. It's worth your all when you get it, you see. It changes everything in the world when you get it. But let's take it one step further. Teach it to your children. Have you told your kids? Here's the answer to all your problems. Here's the answer to your marriage. Here's how you can be married till you die. The same woman, all this kind of thing. It all gets back to that. Then your grandchildren, your neighbors, you see, pass it on. Thank you for being with us this morning.